Thank you all for being here today. I would especially like to recognize Karen Venables and Debbie Hogarth, who have worked tirelessly to bring this initiative together. I'd also like to welcome and personally thank Alberta Justice and Solicitor General, Assistant Deputy Minister, Mr. Bill Sweeney, for being here and supporting this much-needed initiative. I have learned over the years that you only truly understand what someone is going through when you have walked a mile in their shoes. As hard as we try to relate to people as police officers, there are times where what people really need is someone who knows what they are going through from first-hand experience. Today we are launching the Calgary Homicide Support Society to give the families of homicide victims exactly that, support. Thanks to a generous grant from the provincial government, this society has been established to organize a professionally facilitated peer support group where families who have lost loved ones to homicide can help each other. Participants will be able to seek the emotional and practical support they need from the group at any given time. The group will be facilitated by a forensic psychologist offering expertise both in mental and emotional health, as well as the criminal justice system. Any adult member of a homicide victim is welcome to participate. I am personally very pleased to see this group created. At the Calgary Police Service, supporting victims of crime is a priority. But there are times that our victim assistance unit is unable to give victims the type of support they most need, despite their best efforts. That is why when two mothers who lost their sons to homicide approached us asking for help to establish a group like this, we were happy to assist. Because of these two women, Karen Venables and Debbie Hogarth, families whose lives have been devastated by homicide can turn to people who have been there, people who truly understand the impact. It is a level of support and relationship that no one else could provide these families, and I'm hopeful it will make a profound difference. So I'd like to thank Karen and Debbie for all their hard work. I would also like to thank the Government of Alberta for the grant that made this possible. Establishing the Calgary Homicide Support Society involved a number of dedicated people worthy of recognition. Everyone who has worked so hard to make this group a reality should be very proud. Because this group is going to touch so many people and is going to significantly help them as they go through one of the most difficult experiences of their lives. Thank you. I'd now like to turn the podium over to Assistant Deputy Minister, Mr. Bill Sweeney with Alberta Justice and Solicitor General.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here today to represent our Minister of Justice and Solicitor General, Minister Kathleen Ganley. She's unable to be here today because of commitments at the legislature, but she certainly sends her warmest regards to the Society and particularly to you, Karen and Debbie, for all the work that you've done. And I'm personally grateful that I've had the opportunity to represent her today because as a former police officer, like Paul and others, we've had the unfortunate experience of dealing with victims in some of the most horrific moments of their lives. Families that are experiencing such profound and acute pain that it's unimaginable to any of us who have not actually experienced the things that they've had to see and live on a day-to-day basis since the moment that they lost a loved one. That depth of grief makes their experiences very difficult for those who haven't experienced to relate to. And not only do they have to deal with the death of somebody through a senseless act, they have to endure the criminal processes that follow. Trials, preliminary hearings, potentially national parole board sessions. All of these things compound their emotions in a way that is completely unexplainable to us in terms of trying to relate to them and ease them with their pain and their grief. They can only reach out to one another. Karen and Debbie, having lost a loved one, understand this pain. And the courage and the generosity that they have shown to initiate this particular society, the group that's going to reach out in a very significant ways to others that are also experiencing these horrible losses. The generosity and courage is probably just as unimaginable as the events that they've encountered in the past. So on behalf of the minister, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the Calgary Police Service. I want to say thank you to the community and the people that have been engaged in this activity, the victim services folks as well. Much needed, going to be a very important component of victim services in Calgary and the surrounding communities. So thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. I'll now invite Karen to make a few comments, please.
Thank you, Chief Cook and Assistant Deputy Minister Sweeney, for your comments. We would also like to thank the Solicitor General's Office and the Justice Department of the Government of Alberta for your support during the grant application process and our approval earlier this year. Two mothers were brought together about a year ago by Nancy Hicks at Global TV. She introduced us. She saw a need in Calgary for families dealing with homicide. I met Debbie Hogarth one Sunday afternoon for coffee. And there was only one thing we had in common. We'd never met. But both of our sons had been murdered. My son Devin in 2002 and Debbie's son Josh in 2012. When you lose a loved one, as you probably all know, the grief and sadness can be overwhelming. But when that loss has the words murder or homicide attached to it, another level is added to that grief that you were already experiencing. Words like preliminary hearing, defense counsel, Crown prosecutor became part of my everyday vocabulary, and I knew nothing about it. Devin died November 5th, 2002. Christmas came in 70 days that year. We did not know how to do that. And I wish I could have talked to someone who could have told me, do what works for you. I had to learn that on my own for years. The first family wedding, where it would be so evident that Devin wasn't there. Did we go and be sad? Or did we stay at home? I didn't know the answer. When my younger son turned 18 and he could now go out to the pubs, how did I cope with this? My fear was debilitating. I wish I had someone to talk to. Could someone help me, support me? At that time, there was no one I could call who could really help me with the answers or advice. So this is why I felt so strongly about working with the people behind me and beside me to bring this homicide support group to Calgary. In a secure, undisclosed location on a monthly basis, family members can sit beside one another, and they just might have the answer, the advice you're looking for, because they've already experienced that same situation. If you have lost a loved one to homicide, please go to our website, www.calgaryhss.ca, and register for our monthly group meeting. And now I'd like to introduce our board of directors that have, for the past year, we've all worked so diligently. Dr. Scott McLean, our facilitator, who will be at each meeting, could not be here. But I'd like to introduce everybody else. It's Penny Ferguson. She's with the Calgary City Police. Victim Services. Brent Hutt, Sergeant at Victim Services with the Calgary City Police. Clark McChesney. Rob Laird. Debbie Hogarth. And Grant Shorn, the Assistant Chief Crown Prosecutor in Calgary. I want to thank all of you for all the work we all have done in the past year. Thank you, and I look forward for you to let everyone know to join us on a monthly basis. Thanks.
That is it for our formal program. If anyone has questions, please indicate who they are addressed to so that person can step up to the podium and best answer the question for you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Be correct. Whoever, when did the meeting start? And is it just for relatives of victims, or is it for anyone who knew a victim?
At this time, it's for 18 years of age or older, family members who have lost a loved one to homicide. Our first meeting will be at the end of June, so as soon as they start to register, there will be a process that they will go to our website and register, and our facilitator, Dr. Scott McLean, will personally phone each person who registers for the group.
When people answer, would they mind going to the podium
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Thank you. We just
Sorry.
want to be able to include it in our story.
Okay. Right now, we are open to family members who have lost a loved one to homicide, 18 years of age or older. We have a lot of plans after we get this one underway to include a lot of other people, but we've decided to start with that. They need to go to our website and register. Our facilitator, Dr. Scott McLean, will personally call each person to register, who registers, to give them the time and date of location of our first meeting, which will be the last week of June.
What if someone isn't sure they're ready to share what they're going through?
That's a good question. I would encourage them to register, and when they have the conversation with Dr. McLean, he is so compassionate, he is so experienced in what he does. He'll be able to guide them. He also has a lot of other resources available to him if he feels it's not maybe the right place for them just yet. It's a big step. So that's why we felt a professional facilitator was important. He has the skill to help people decide if it's the right place or the time for them.
Is this all going to be volunteer run? Or how will, just to get a sense of logistics, how will this work in conjunction with the Calgary Police?
The Calgary Police is, maybe Brent can answer that question. Can you? We were given a grant. We applied for a grant. We were given a grant by the Department of Justice and Victim Services for a 1-year grant. So this is our startup year for the grant we received.
How much was that grant?
Can I say that?
Yeah.
76,000. Do you want to, yours?
No, absolutely. How the Calgary Police Service is going to help is isn't a support function. We were very proud when Karen and Debbie asked us to join this board. We were very honored to do so. So our contribution is to be part of it. Obviously, we come in contact a lot with the people who have been impacted by homicide. So there's definitely a link there as to how we can help the society and help people who have been impacted by homicide.
So you'll be referring people to the group then?
Absolutely, yeah. As well as working with our other community agencies. We look at Alberta Health Services, Compassionate Friends, the list goes on. There's quite a few different agencies in Calgary that are all willing to help people who have been impacted by homicide. So we can all work together to be able to refer people and let them know that this resource is out there for them.
How will this be different than victim services or some of the agencies that you?
Well, in the role in victim services, our mandate is to offer support, information, and referrals. So referring people to the appropriate community agencies. We cannot do, like the chief mentioned, we can do all we can and we want to do all we can, but we're talking about people being in a room who have had a shared experience. I haven't had, thankfully, many of us haven't had. So this is putting them in the room with people who have had that shared experience for that support.
Do you have a sense of whether this is unique to Calgary or whether other municipalities have a similar program?
Other municipalities across the country absolutely do have a very similar program. There's very successful programs operating just up north in Edmonton and Lloydminster. This is very unique to Calgary. This is something, there is not an organized, facilitated peer support group in Calgary, which is why when Karen and Debbie really took a look at contacting the government for some funding and put their heads together and saw a need for it, they really ran with it. So it's going to have huge value to people who have been impacted by homicide.
And I'm sorry, I didn't get your name when you came to the podium and your title, please.
Sergeant Brent Hutt, HUTT, with the Victim Assistance Unit.
So where did families go before this group was set?
That's a great question, and a lot of what I've heard from different families is they went to a variety of different places. We were just talking not that long ago. There's family members who went to Google. There's family members who cold called other people in the United States, the United Kingdom, looking for support, which is why it makes such sense for this group to happen, right? There is a lot of fantastic professional organizations through Alberta Health Services and other not-for-profit organizations that want to help people who have been impacted by homicide, but like I've heard from Karen and Debbie, that feeling of being alone is just too strong. So at least now we're going to start driving those people to a place that they can get help.